Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast today. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our regular family of seekers. We're studying the Gita together. It's this really special time on Monday and Thursday mornings at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We get together, we study the Gita, we talk about its relevance in our lives, and then we go about our days and we try to live it. We try to live it. That's why we're here. Right? So today we are in chapter 6. Oh, and before I get started, I want to give another shout out for our Gita in Action retreat, which is going to happen at New Vrindavan in September 5th through 7th. If you haven't signed up, you should come because it's going to be great. It's going to be like an extended version of what we do here, added in with kirtan and association and delicious food. And my good friend and mentor, Vedasar, is going to be doing it with me. So, and he is just like a magical person full of Shakti, so much Shakti. And it's going to be great. So please come. You can go on the New Vrindavan website and sign up. We try to keep the price super low, but if you need a discount or, if you need help to come, let me know and we will try to figure it out because we want everyone to be able to come who wants to. Because this association, this community, this continuous deep dive into these texts is so important for our lives, so important for our spiritual lives, so important for our material lives, right? It just like makes us better people in our material lives. So let's take some time out of our month to just get together and have some really focused, connective time. Okay, so the New Vrindavan website, you can register September 5th through 7th. All right, so let's get into these texts. Today we are chapter 6, text 24 is where we're going to start. We're going to do 2 verses today. So Stella, when you're ready, if you want to read text 24 for us.
Sure. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides of the mind.
Thank you. Okay, so Krishna is emphasizing a crucial principle here for our spiritual lives, for success really in anything that we do, right? And that is determination, right? Determination. A determined practitioner doesn't allow themselves to be thrown off course. Right? This doesn't mean that distractions won't come because inevitably they will. The nature of both the mind and the world is to pull us away. But yoga means bringing ourselves back again and again. And that's the repeated returning is the essence of bhakti yoga, right? Or really any authentic spiritual path. So how do we practice with that kind of steadiness? How is this practical in our lives? And what Krishna is saying here is to give up material desires that arise from mental speculation. Okay, so he's not saying that we should eliminate lust or all desires completely, because that's kind of impossible for us, right? Like desires are just naturally going to come. Right? But he encourages us to give up engaging with those desires. So the desires will come, but give up engaging with the desires. And so we may not be able to stop every thought or craving, but we can choose not to dwell on them, right? Or plan to act on them. And this is where this control comes in. Krishna instructs us to use the mind to control the senses. Sometimes the mind stirs the senses into action, right? Like by contemplating on past pleasures or things that you want to do or things that you think will make you happy, right? And other times the senses trigger the mind, right? Like we see something that we want to enjoy or eat or, whatever it be. Either way, awareness is needed to check the cycle before it spirals. And in Ashtanga, just remember this chapter is about Ashtanga yoga, chapter 6 is about Ashtanga yoga. The practitioner often lives in seclusion, right? Like far away from distractions and temptations of material life. But even in the forest, the mind can still remember past pleasures and therefore it can agitate the senses through just these internal triggers in the mind, right? But for us, we live in the world, right? We're not really Ashtanga yogis who live out in the forest in seclusion, right? We live in the world, and external temptations are almost impossible to avoid. But regardless, whether the triggers come from outside or inside, the instruction is the same. And that is just to regulate the inner response. The real danger is not in the external contact, but it's in our inner contemplation of those contacts, because that's where the downward slides begin. Okay, so Krishna is encouraging us to rise above this, to consciously let go of material desires and fix our mind on him. Not because he's trying to punish us, right? Not because he's like, these are bad, but just simply because they distract us from the real prize. They just distract us from the real prize. So he's saying just let go of them, because nothing is going to satisfy your heart as much as connection with me. So therefore, just know the desires will come, but don't engage with them, because they'll pull you off course. Right? So he's saying that this focus combined with faith and determination is what's going to keep us steady, even when the winds of distraction try to pull us away, right? Because they will, because they will inevitably. Be prepared. And we have to get really careful about what we're choosing to turn our attention to, because that's going to manifest our lives, right? And it could very easily pull us away without us even really thinking about it. So in this purport, Prabhupada shares a powerful story. I love this story. And for some reason, when I read this story this time, it like hit me deeper than in the past when I've heard it. So I'll share it with you guys, and then I'll share my realization on it when he shared it, when I read it this time. Okay, so this is a story about a small sparrow in a vast ocean. Okay, so the sparrow had laid her eggs on the shore, and one day the ocean came and swept them away. Right? And distraught, this sparrow, this little soon-to-be mama, she was determined to get them back. Right? So she did what she could. She tried to dry up the ocean, but she's just this little tiny sparrow. So she does it just one beakful at a time, which is like, of course, impossible. Right? You're never going to dry up the ocean with one little tiny beakful at a time. Right? But her determination, it didn't waver. She just kept going day after day, beakful after beakful. And her relentless sincerity eventually drew the attention of Garuda, this mighty eagle and vehicle of Lord Vishnu. He was moved by her devotion. So he was a lot bigger, had a lot more, pull than she did. He went to the ocean and he commanded it to return the eggs. So the ocean obeyed, and the sparrow was reunited with what she'd lost. Okay, so Prabhupada uses this story to illustrate the power of determined devotion. Because on our own, it may seem impossible to overcome our deeply ingrained conditionings, like our attachments, our bad habits, our doubts, our distractions. They are like the ocean. And pure love for God that lies within our heart has been buried deep beneath its waves. And this is the part that really hit me different. Each time that we chant, each time that we engage in devotional service, think of it like removing just one drop of that ocean. But even though these are small efforts, they're not in vain, because just like the sparrow, our sincere endeavor can attract divine help. Right? And that's the mercy of God and his devotees. Right? And when that mercy comes, it has the power to do what we could never do on our own, which is completely cleanse our heart and restore our original love for God. And I just thought this was so profound because sometimes I'll sit down and chant and I'll feel like, oh, I'm so, I'm so committed, I'm so determined, I'm really doing this, all these I statements, right? But it's so funny because think of every, mantra that we chant as just like one drop of that ocean that we're removing. That's what we're doing. Our effort, what we're doing is so small, right? But what's actually making the difference is the mercy of Krishna. And what we're doing by our mantras, by our practices, is we're attracting that mercy. By our sincere endeavor, basically, is by our sincere endeavor, we're attracting that mercy. But our endeavor in itself is just like a drop of the ocean, right, that we're removing. So it's really it's a beautiful story. It demonstrates the importance of determination, but also the fact that it's not our determination alone that's really enabling us to connect. Right? The determination attracts the mercy, and that's what enables us. That's what allows us to connect with God. So, in this purport, Prabhupada concludes by saying, God helps those who help themselves. Right? God helps those who help themselves. And the best way we can help ourselves is by genuinely taking shelter of Krishna. And he's already in our heart. He's eager to help us. We just have to stop blocking that help. We stop interrupting the process with distractions and doubts and diversions. It's like a patient who refuses to follow the doctor's advice. The doctor's like, okay, well, you need to eliminate all these things from your diet, and you need to do this and this and this. And it's like, and the patient's like, I don't really want to do that. That's just like too much work. Right? But maybe the patient tries it out. Maybe the patient gives up something like greasy food or something, and they see that their health improves a little bit, right? And in that way, they'll build faith, right? And they'll be able to be a little bit more determined, right? So this is the same, Krishna wants to lift us up. He wants to carry us across the ocean of material conditioning. And our role is to stop resisting, to stop turning away, and to keep turning back to him with sincerity and devotion. So that's why we do what we do, right? That's why we show up. That's why we chant. That's why we pray. That's why we serve. We're just beakful by beakful, step by step, right? Uncovering that cloud that's on us that keeps us from realizing our true nature. And even if our determination is small, it will be matched and ultimately surpassed by Krishna's boundless compassion. So that to me, like I said, it hit a little bit differently because I have a tendency to get caught up in like the me mentality and thinking that I'm doing all these things and I'm so great. Right? But it's so nice to kind of be put in place in that, like, no matter how much you do, it's still just a drop of the ocean compared to Krishna's boundless mercy that comes and actually lifts you up. Okay, so that is 624. We will move on to 625, unless anybody has anything they want to share before we do that. Stella, when you're ready, if you can read 625 for us. Stella, are you there? Okay, maybe Maria, are you on? Could you read it, Maria?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my thing off.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No
Shall I,
problem.
shall I start again?
Yeah, yeah.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
Thank you. This verse is really nice too. Okay, we'll zoom in on a couple things that are said in this verse. First, he says step by step. In this verse, he says step by step. So he's emphasizing the importance of gradual, steady progress in spiritual life. And it's not about rushing, it's about consistency. The mind doesn't become fixed overnight. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes patience. So we just want to be as consistent as possible. Make a goal for yourself, even if it's 10 minutes a day of meditation, whatever it is, and just try to be consistent. Don't make the goal too high that it's like it's not attainable for you on a consistent basis, because that's not super helpful. But just try to be consistent. Try to have like a minimum. Okay, I'm going to try to meditate 10 minutes a day. And then if you do more, that's great. But you have like a baseline of like what works for you and what is achievable every day. And this determination that we talked about in the last verse, this determination comes from conviction. Okay, so determination is what we do on the outside, right? It's how we show up, it's how we act. But conviction is what fuels it from the inside. So in that way, they're deeply connected, right? Our determination is just like an outward manifestation of how deeply we're convicted. And this intelligence, he talks about intelligence is in this verse, that's intelligence is like the roadmap. Right? And conviction is like the engine that keeps you moving forward on that map. And just like we talked about the sick person, the sick person who's not super motivated for treatment because they don't have a lot of conviction. They don't have a lot of conviction that, if they make all these lifestyle changes, that it's going to work for them. But if they do a little bit and they see that their health improves, their conviction will grow. And as their conviction grows, so does their determination to continue. So in that same way, we see how our spiritual practice purifies us and strengthens us as our commitment deepens. And then pulling intelligence back into this equation, Krishna is saying that our intelligence must be sustained by conviction, because without that, we won't know what's right, right? If we don't have this intelligence, right? If we don't have conviction, we may know what's right, but we won't keep doing it consistently enough to see transformation. So the medicine only works if we keep taking it. So we need both. We need this intelligence, we need this conviction. So I wanted to ask you guys, what's one area of your spiritual life where you're showing up outwardly but still struggling to feel convinced inwardly? Right? And what might help strengthen that conviction? I can tell you guys something that I'm getting a lot better at, but was a little difficult for me at first, was deity worship. Right? And especially like I have a lot of Indian friends, and some of them I spend a good amount of time with, and I see how it's just like ingrained into them. They wake up in the morning, it's the first thing they think of. They go downstairs, they pay base. They have all of these like, they're really good about following the rules. Me, it's like it took a while for me to get to where that was in my consciousness. And I don't know if it's like a cultural thing, like I didn't grow up with them, so it's not like, I mean, maybe that's just an excuse, but that's how I feel. I feel like it's like ingrained in them, and it's like for me, like something I have to like cultivate. And when I do, I feel the purification. I feel the purification. But there's times where it's like it's not the first thing I think of. And I sometimes I can see the difference. Anyway, um, is there anything with you guys that you show up outwardly, but you struggle to feel convinced inwardly? Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many things, but one of them is, doing the smaran, doing the meditation, and how it says to do it consistently. But we can't do that. And we get caught up into, oh, this said this, or she said that, or this didn't happen, or so that mental connection that I'm struggling,
Yeah.
sit and meditate and focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And even when deity worship, you sit down and with so much love, you bring the deity and did all that. But then when you're actually sitting and you have to focus, can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing. Yeah, these things are so common, and I think and the point is that like even though, we keep trying, we keep doing what we can, step by step, beakful by beakful, and you don't get discouraged or you don't feel like, you don't kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just keep trying. And you notice in your life where these things are, bearing fruit. Like I notice when I do deity worship, I feel the purification. I feel the purification. So you notice, and as you notice and as you contemplate and as you realize, your conviction will grow. And as your conviction grows, your determination grows. And also super helpful. Yeah, Stella just said, this podcast is my beakful. Yeah, it's helpful to immerse ourselves in this spiritual wisdom. This is how we build our intelligence, right? Because it says that conviction, that intelligence has to be sustained by conviction. So we have our conviction has to be driven by intelligence. So that's super important when we hear these things, when we hear from people that are, very spiritually evolved, or we hear sastra that teaches us these things, it helps kind of strengthen that conviction as well. And then we'll become more determined. So wherever you are, it's okay. Keep
All these
notice and just
classes and all that just brings more awareness. So that helps.
yes, yes, exactly. It brings more awareness. Yeah, that's the journey. That's the journey. That is part of it. So wherever you are in it is perfect, and progress is more important than perfection. Right? That's really what we're doing here. Is just noticing it a little bit more. I one thing I started doing when I had my baby, I kind of like was not great about greeting my deities in the morning. Like for like months, I was just like on and off, about greeting them. And I'd always do it at some point in the day, but not necessarily in the morning. And then after I got Brahmin initiated, which wasn't that long ago, but I was like, okay, I really need to get consistent, like consistent timing. I need to do this first thing. And so I just like made that resolution, and I've been doing it. I've been doing it. And it's like a small thing. Honestly, it takes like 5 minutes in the morning. It's really, there should be no excuse for not having 5 minutes when you first wake up. Sometimes even like 3 minutes. It doesn't even take that much time. But it's just like, we have your baby as a sort of deity. Yeah, yeah. My baby is definitely a sort of deity. And that's good. And it's good too, I know that was an intense period, but the point is just recognize and just make a small resolution to be a little bit better and
Yes.
try it. Yeah, beakful by beakful. Okay, so we're gonna talk about this mind and intelligence again, because this is one thing that we really want to take away from this chapter is that you are not your mind. Right? Your mind is like its own animal, right? And we have to tame the mind. That's really our relationship with our mind. But it's important to understand that we're not our mind. And when we understand that, we can gain more control over it, right? Because we're not overly identifying with it. So this is so important. And we see this in our lives sometimes, if we get kind of caught up in a habit that like our intelligence and our higher self knows that we don't really want to do, right? Even if it's something small, like maybe spending too much time on Facebook, right? You try to spend too much time on Facebook, you try to cut back, right? But no matter how hard you try to discipline yourself, you just keep falling into the same pattern. Right? And why is this so difficult? Right? Why is this so difficult? And this is difficult because the mind pushes us towards immediate gratification, right? Whatever feels good in the moment. You should understand this is what your mind is going to pull you towards. Okay, your intelligence, on the other hand, is going to guide you towards long-term well-being. Okay, so know that within your subtle body, you have these two faculties, mind and intelligence, and they're distinctly different. And that your mind is going to pull you towards short-term satisfaction. Your intelligence is going to bring you towards more long-term well-being. Okay, so know this, right? This is like right now I'm like sizing up, the opposite side of the battlefield for you. Like these are your opponents. This is what you're working with, and these are their tactics. And the mind is going to pull you towards immediate gratification. Know that. Okay, the intelligence is going to help you. The intelligence is going to be your friend if you train it right, right? If it's calibrated correctly, it'll be your friend, and it'll guide you towards long-term well-being. Right? So when we've developed a habit like mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, the mind acts fast. The mind's going to act almost like first. Right? The mind's like the front line of the opponents. Right? It's going to act fast. It's going to propel us into action before our intelligence even has a chance to step in and evaluate what's happening. You might notice yourself opening the app almost like automatically. Anybody else ever do that? I did it in a lecture yesterday. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I see Facebook's up on my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope nobody saw that Facebook is up on my phone. It's like ridiculous. It's just automatic. You click it, and then you're like, why am I doing this? Right? So to become disciplined, we need to train our intelligence. Our intelligence is like, it can be on our side of the battlefield. Right? Our intelligence, and it can respond faster than our mind. So that means catching ourselves in the moment and questioning, like, do I really need to be doing this right now? That was what happened to me yesterday. I mean, it was like a quick thing, but then I see the screen and I'm like, what am I doing? Do I really need to be doing this right now? Right? And this simple pause allows our intelligence to examine the mind's suggestion instead of just blindly following it. Right? It's like our intelligence is just like out to lunch. And the mind is just coming towards us like, this feels good. Let's do this. And our intelligence is out to lunch. So all of a sudden we're like, just along for the ride. Right? But the Gita is encouraging us to use our intelligence to bring the wandering mind back under control. Right? So take that intelligence, tame that intelligence, get it calibrated correctly, and then make sure it's alert. Right? Make sure that it's alert. And if your intelligence isn't that strong, we can strengthen it. And that's a beautiful thing too. We can strengthen the intelligence. We can start by studying wisdom regularly, right? Like coming to this class, right? Reading texts like the Gita. This helps clear our thinking so that our intelligence knows how to guide us. Right? The other thing we can do is set ourselves up for success by using our intelligence in advance to reduce temptations, right? Like if you're trying to avoid alcohol, don't keep it in the house. If you want to cut down on scrolling, like maybe turn off notifications, right? If you want to have quiet time for meditation, maybe keep your phone in an entirely different room. We kind of get ahead of the game before the mind even can react, even can like engage. The intelligence has already cut it off. Right? So it can only go so far. And then the other thing we can do is respond as soon as we notice. Like I did with Facebook yesterday when I opened it without even like thinking, and then saw it and realized like, what am I doing? Right? The mind can get ahead of us. The intelligence can be out to lunch. The mind can come forward. Okay, as soon as you notice, respond. Right? Interrupt the pattern as soon as you catch it. Because every small win matters. Even partial regulation is better than just completely throwing it out. It's like you have one piece of cake. You didn't want to have one piece of cake, but you did it. And you're like, okay, well, since I had one, I might as well have two. And then you have two, you're like, okay, well, I might as well, whatever. I'll start over tomorrow. Anyone else ever get caught up in that? Like, no need, right? Okay, you have one. All right, cut it off. All right, you lose a little willpower. You have two. Okay, cut it off. Right? That a little bit, a partial regulation is better than nothing. Okay, so this is how we can sharpen the intelligence, right? Understanding that if we're just whimsical about it, the mind will beat us, right? Because the mind, it will just act. It will just act on impulse, and it'll just, whatever's closest, whatever's most pleasurable, it'll just grab. Right? And so we have this intelligence faculty to help us with this, but it's up to us to train it. Right? It's up to us to train it. It's up to us to make sure that it's alert. And each time that we choose intelligence over impulse, our mind loses a little bit of its hold. Right? And our intelligence gets stronger and quicker. And so that over time, the balance can shift. right? Your intelligence can begin to lead. And discipline stops feeling like a battle and just starts becoming a way of life. Right? But the default battlefield that we're on is that our mind, it's going to be coming forward and it's going to be big and strong. And we have to make that conscious decision to train and and alert the intelligence to combat it. And if we can do that consistently enough and with a conscientious mind, right? With conscientious intention, if we can be diligent, the intelligence, we can change the battlefield. We can change the dynamics of the battlefield, and the intelligence can be more. What do they call that in sports when like one side is favorable? I forget the language, but the intelligence can be like higher, stronger, faster. But we have to train it. Okay? So I have a couple of reflection questions for you guys here to share. Two questions, either one I'd like to hear. When your mind and intelligence pull you in different directions, home field advantage. Yeah, home field advantage. Yes, let's make our intelligence have that home field advantage. Right? That's up to us. That's up to us. So when your mind and your intelligence pull you in different directions, which one tends to win and why? When they pull you in different directions. I think for me it's like different for different circumstances. Like some things are easier than others. You all know like my sweet tooth struggle. I oftentimes lose that, but I've been winning more and more with it too, to be honest. And it depends on the circumstances too. It's like if I'm extra stressed, it's more likely that I'll lose, that the mind is going to win, right? If I'm extra tired, it's more likely the mind's going to win. Right? But for like discipline for my practice, I think my intelligence usually wins on that one. So it's different. And then what helps you pause and check in with your intelligence before reacting to an impulse? Honestly, I think of you guys a lot. I think of this class a lot lately, especially. It's like, I just talked about that, or we just shared this. This is right now. This is where I could actually live this. So I think that is really helpful. I've even thought about making a group for our live group because we all converse so much about these things. When I have like a small win, just to like share with you guys, like, hey guys. Anyway, so for you guys, does anybody want to share when your mind and intelligence pulls you in different directions, which one tends to win and why? And what helps you pause and check in with your intelligence before reacting? Has anybody else noticed that lately? Have anybody else noticed like pausing and checking in with your intelligence before reacting to an impulse? Maria.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't raise my hand. Someone else go first.
Oh, oh no. Okay, Katie, yeah, please go.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. Um, yeah, okay, so this came to my mind a few minutes ago as well. Um, Honestly, what usually wins for me is the mind that's really driven by strong emotions that are more anger, anger driven. That can really just take me so quickly, like away from the intelligence and too quickly kind of wins. But I wanted to share like a small win that was kind of impactful last night. Because I'm doing some job hunting while I'm on my medical leave, and I was really stressing like, okay, I might go back into like restaurant management, which is not exactly what I was hoping, but it's been really helpful to keep being reminded that like it doesn't matter too much. Like, why am I focusing so much on what my actions are in the material world? Like, can I, you know, make it a little less important, and yeah, make it healthy and sustainable, but like what's the difference kind of in some ways. And I was just kind of lost sitting. My husband was cooking for us, and it was like a lovely evening, and And I was kind of thinking, oh man, it's kind of scary if I get the job. It's kind of scary if I go back to the museum. And I was just like, wait a minute. This is the thing is I always let my mind just take over and take me out of the moment and out of like, you know, being aware and mindful. And I'm like, every time I do this, I'm forgetting Krishna. And it's so strong and powerful and, to remember and bring my mind back to Krishna. And so what really helped last night was I was just like, nope, I'm just, okay, just look at my lovely husband, focus on the great things that are just happening literally right now. And for a sec, I was like, whoa, is this what it really feels like to like really have faith and trust? Like, you know what? It doesn't matter which one comes about. Like, I don't want to let my mind take over my Krishna consciousness as much as I usually do. And it really helped me because then my mind will just go back to like, well, if this one happens, it'll be like this. If this one happens, it'll be like this. And yeah, it was just such a nice, and I don't know, it was a helpful moment because I'm like, how more often can I do this? Can I realize like, wait a minute, if I get my mind less, more out of the material world, it was like a glimpse, of just being like, nope, it's stronger to remember Krishna. It's better to remember Krishna. And I'm not explaining it well because I'm sorry, I'm trying to drive too, but
No, you
yeah.
are.
Oh, good. Okay. It was just, and I was thinking when 20 minutes or something ago, I was like, I want to share this with the group, but I'm sure a good time will come up. Yeah. So that it really helped to just think, hey, I keep being reminded over and over, especially lately, what the material world is not the jam. Like it's, like I'm really spending too much mental energy on it. And it was just such a wonderful glimpse and feeling of like, whoa, is this what people like Radhanath Swami feel like? Like just total faith.
Yeah.
Like whatever
Yeah.
happens in the material world, like, oh, it's going to be okay. Can I bring my mind to focus where it's going to be okay no matter what situation? And it was really awesome. So I hope I can remember that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's actually a perfect segue into this next point that we have is that this is so common, especially like we'll be in meditation and our mind will just be reeling, like solving the problem of the day, planning, fixing, just like that. And it's like, why does this happen to us? And you hit the nail on the head exactly. Like it's because we often carry the misconception that our security depends entirely on external circumstances. Right? And so when that's our belief, any threat to our worldly situation feels huge. Right? The mind becomes restless, like even obsessed with trying to fix or manage that threat. Right? And this is an untrained mind. This is a mind that hasn't been influenced by the intelligence. Right. And in that state, meditation will feel like a waste of time, right? Like it's pulling us away from what really needs to be done. Anybody ever felt like that before? Like I have too much to do to meditate. Right? So to meditate attentively, especially in the middle of life's challenges, we have to address the deeper issue, and that is where we're placing our sense of security. Just it's like exactly what you said. It's so great to recognize when our mind is starting to go just like in that endless loop of trying to figure, trying to plan, when we forget where our real true security exists. Right? And shifting that sense of security to its rightful place requires intelligence sustained by conviction, right? And if we need to build this, which if you're like me and you need to build this more, right? We can do two things, right? We can remind ourselves that true security lies in our spiritual relationship with Krishna. Right? Everything else is temporary. Only that connection is lasting. And that sounds like that's exactly what you did. So we remind ourselves, right? Constantly remind ourselves. And then after that, we redirect our mind to seek shelter in Krishna during our meditation. Right? We trust that this connection grounds us in something real and unshakable. So when you feel your mind reeling, Bring it back. Remind yourself, redirect it. And if we and during for our meditation, if we can make this shift, it will change our whole relationship with meditation. Right? It no longer feels like a detour from life's real problems, but it becomes the most real thing we can do. It becomes the inner foundation that helps us deal with everything else more clearly and calmly. And it even helps settle our mind. And it helps us face our challenges with more clarity and steadiness and strength. So this can be so powerful. Let's see. Mariah wrote something in the chat. She says, so good. This has been my practice recently too. I don't need to fix. I don't need to plan for tomorrow or week all the time. I need to be right here now. Learning to help my daughter with this too. We will be on the way to do a fun activity, and she's already asking, what are we doing tomorrow or next weekend? And I tell her, let's just be here right now. We will focus on tomorrow. Yeah, that's so powerful. It's so fun. It's funny when we see it in our kids, right? Because our mindsets they're going to be inherited by our kids too. So that's so important. We kind of give away all of our power to be empowered in the moment when we're focused too much on the next moment. If we just do more of looking up, if we do more of kind of raising our arms, we'll be more empowered to handle what's in front of us, right? Than stuck in what's behind us or where we're gonna go. So for you guys, when life feels uncertain or out of control, where do you find yourself instinctively looking for security? Where do you guys look for security? I think when things feel out of control or uncertain in my life, like when I just started working recently, and the weeks leading up to it, I realized that I was like overcompensating with trying to control things, and even like small things. And even my husband's like, "What's going on with you lately?" And I had to like think about it. I was like, I think just all the uncertainty. I'm just trying to control all the little things to like compensate for this uncertainty that I feel in within myself. It's like my default mode. And so I like recognized it. It was like, okay, I need to commit more, not necessarily time, but more like intention in my meditation, or like intention in that level of like surrender, like Krishna, you got this. Like Krishna, take this, because I can't. Like I'm much too small and much too unqualified to handle this. But my default was definitely in that moment. My default was like, okay, I'm going to control every single little thing, and if I can't control it, I'm going to be stressed about it. Right? Instead of just giving it all over. And that's what we really need to do. And I felt such a difference when I did that, right? I felt such a difference. And I was able to let go of that control mentality. It even like kind of helped things between my husband and I was just kind of able to go with the flow a little bit more, and then it all started, and it's like, it feels like a flow. It doesn't feel like forced. It doesn't feel like stress. It doesn't feel like anxiety. It just feels like a flow. Like it changes the whole dynamic of the way that we engage, right? When we can hand over that security. But it's difficult, right? Because material nature conditions us to put it in everything else except Krishna. And it takes a trained intelligence to put it towards Krishna, to put it towards spiritual. And with that intelligence, we'll see, that it alleviates our anxiety, right? Then when we do it like this, we feel less stressed. We feel more in flow, right? And this will increase our conviction. Right? And then that should increase your determination, right? Because we talked about determination is an external manifestation of this internal conviction. So that's the process, but we do have to catch ourselves, and we can turn back when we catch ourselves. Do any of you all catch yourself putting putting security in something other than Krishna, or looking for security in something other than Krishna. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on because this next point is also really beautiful too and relatable. Okay, so sometimes we feel like we see people speak about living virtuously, right? But they struggle to follow through. And I don't know about you guys, but in our minds, it's easy to judge them, right? It's easy to say, yeah, they talk a big game, but they don't walk it, right? And we just label it as like hypocrisy. But what we should understand is that it's really just somebody in progress. And it's like a little toddler who thinks they can run, but they can barely stay on their feet. Right? It's not that they're pretending, they just haven't developed the ability yet. Right? In the same way that someone might genuinely want to live with integrity, but they underestimate how strong their old habits are. Right? So they talk about virtue because they do value it, but they're still learning to live it. Right? And just like when they're learning to walk and they fall, we don't criticize them. We encourage them, right? We help them grow. We can take the same approach with others, right? And with ourselves. And with ourselves. When we see a gap between intention and action, instead of labeling someone a hypocrite, we can recognize that they're learning and maybe even support them along the way, right? And this will help us be more compassionate with ourselves when our actions don't quite match our ideals, right? It doesn't mean that our values are meaningless. It just means that we're still growing into them. And the Gita encourages us, this kind of steady, patient growth. This spiritual focus, it develops gradually. So instead of expecting immediate perfection, we can expect the mind to wander and commit to gently bringing it back again and again. And that's how we move from wanting to live with virtue to actually living it, like step by step with patience and sincerity. And we had like a little meeting with Radhanath Swami after the Bhagavatam class yesterday. And somebody asked this question. And they asked this question like this. It was like they were a resident of New Vrindavan, and they said, sometimes people live in the Dham, and I might not say exactly do justice to what she said, but it was something like, we live in New Vrindavan, and people sometimes just come just to enjoy, when really the intention, when it's like really the Dham is to serve. She was like, so what is it? Are we here to enjoy, or are we here to serve? And you could tell she was just kind of like struggling with this. And it's also pretty understandable, because I could see that. I go there all the time, and the residents are like working so hard, and people just go there to enjoy. So I could understand kind of the intention behind the question, like what's going on here? But the way that Radhanath Swami answered the question was so like he was like acknowledging each perspective and with love and compassion. It was like, yes, we serve, we're here to serve. And then he said, and we should enjoy our service. It was just like, it was like, I felt so much love for every perspective in the way that he answered it. I guess that's all that I could say. And that's so much what I feel from him. It's like, wherever you are, just keep trying. Just keep trying. Okay, you go to the Dham to enjoy. Okay, just keep trying. Just keep trying. You're not gonna fix yourself or others by saying you shouldn't enjoy. That's not the right way. It's like, we want to serve. Just keep trying. Because honestly, it's difficult. It's difficult. We want to serve, but do we always want to serve? Do we want to serve when we're really hungry? Do we feel like serving out then? Serving everybody else if we're really hungry? Do we feel like serving? Okay, just keep trying. It's okay. Just keep trying. It was just really sweet. Okay, so then we're almost done here. Last thing I want to point out in this verse, he also says to fix the mind on the self alone and think of nothing else. Okay, so this is possible when we're not constantly pulled outward by our senses. And in yoga, this is called pratyahara. This is like the fifth limb of Ashtanga, I think. Right? The practice of turning inwards, right, away from external distractions. And again, this turning inwards, it doesn't happen all at once. Okay, sometimes we sit down to meditate, our mind's all over the place. That's okay. Krishna says gradually, step by step, step by step. And one of the biggest obstacles in spiritual life is our impatience with ourselves. Right? We want immediate results. We expect our minds to behave, and when it doesn't, we get frustrated or discouraged. Right? But again, we have to remember step by step, just like that toddler learning to walk. And if we compare their wobbly first steps to the thousands of confident steps that their mom takes every day, right? The baby steps are insignificant, right? But they're not. In fact, they're celebrated. We take photos of them and videos, and it's like this big deal, right? And the small steps, it marks this major milestone in the child's growth. So in the same way, we're like those toddlers on the path of spiritual life, right? Learning how to steady our mind, purify our heart, and deepen our connection with Krishna. And just like loving adults cheer on a child's small progress, we have to play both roles in our own journey, right? So like the toddler taking the steps and the supportive adult encouraging. And that doesn't mean that we lower our standards or we get complacent, right? This isn't like an excuse just to be like, okay, what I did is good enough. But it means that we stay committed to the process and we accept that purification takes time. And each day we show up and we engage in our spiritual lives. Even if our efforts feel small or imperfect, we're growing. Right? We're becoming stronger, purer, more connected to God. And that's worth celebrating. Right? So as we wrap up today, let's remember that Krishna's not asking for perfection. He's asking for sincerity, for patience, and for steady effort. Right? And the spiritual path, it's not a sprint, it's a lifelong unfolding. Life's long unfolding, and a journey of returning again and again to what matters most. So whether we feel like that sparrow trying to empty the ocean one beakful at a time, right? Or like a toddler learning to take our first spiritual steps, Krishna honors that effort. He sees that and he honors that. So each act of showing up, each moment of refocusing the mind, right? Just like Katie said, noticing where we're choosing, where we're putting our security instead of Krishna. Right? If it's in ourselves, in our own mind, right? Notice and refocus. Right? Each time we choose conviction over impulse, it's all adding up. We're moving closer to him. So let's keep going. Let's stay determined. Let's stay faithful, and let's stay kind to ourselves in the process. And when I say that, I automatically think of my guru, because I feel like that's his MO, right? Just stay kind to yourself and to others in the process. The work we're doing, maybe it feels small, but it's not, right? Every drop counts. And with Krishna's help, we're not just moving forward, but we're being carried. Right? And it's gradually, step by step, we're becoming who we're meant to be. And it's sacred work. So that was today's class, text 24 and 25. Does anybody want to share anything before we leave for the day?
Radha, I just want to extend my gratitude to you and everyone else, because when my senses take over, my mind and my senses and my mind play havoc with me. My mind, somewhere says you have to get back in class. And these Mondays and the Thursday classes are so helpful because I am taking those baby steps. My granddaughter is 1 year today, and she's not walking yet. She's taking those little steps. So relating these the the beginnings like this is so grateful. And I'm grateful to everyone on this podcast. I kind of miss Trevor too. I haven't heard from him or seen him for a while because he always contributes so much as well. And so I am very, very grateful to you, Radha. I try to come back to class on Monday, Thursday, and then Saturday with Vedasar. It brings me back to reality because I think what everyone is sharing is reality.
गुरु ने याद कर दिया आँखों दौड़ो
And so I am grateful and I have the faith in everyone. So thank you so much. Hi, Kay.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and thanks for sharing. And I feel the same way about you all. So
I just want to add to what's my sister said, but today is Guru Purnima. It's a day where I guess you pay tribute to your gurus, your teachers, and I want to pay that tribute to Radha because you are our teacher
yes
and guru. And so I want to acknowledge that and to everyone else and say thank you. So yeah, I just want to add that.
thank you, Anita. I hope that I can communicate and pass on the things that I've learned from my guru to you all, and that's really all that I'm doing is I just pray to be that pure instrument to do that. And I think earlier in the week I saw that was coming up, but it didn't even click for me today. So thank you for saying that. I'm grateful that I talked about my guru a lot today. That was just a coincidence because I didn't remember it consciously. So
thanks to Facebook,
yes,
you could see that. But thank you again for all the knowledge that you are imparting. It is such great knowledge. And thanks to everyone else. Everyone, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. And Mariah typed something nice on the chat here. She said she heard a lecture once where they talked about the deer in the spiritual world. The deer's service to Krishna is to stare at him while he plays in the forest. So even coming to see Krishna and be in awe of his beauty is a service. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that goes back to the New Vrindavan story that I told, right? Yeah, and I was kind of thinking that too when Radhanaswami was talking. I wish I could remember exactly the way that he answered it, but it was a way that I felt like that. What you just said, Mariah, I felt like that's kind of what he was saying. Yeah, thank you for that beautiful example. Okay. Kay, did you want to share anything before we end? I haven't heard from you. There you are.
yeah I was going to you asked a question that what on we incline on take support and all that we take support of the medications we think okay all these exercises that we do and all that but eventually it helps only with his grace. And of course, today's Guru Purnima, and thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being my teacher. Yes. Okay. Okay, my friends. Well, I'll see you on Monday.
Hare Krishna.
Have a wonderful weekend. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.